So the question is to talk about Sankhya philosophy. So I kind of go in the reverse order. The Sankhya philosophy is a very age-old philosophy, right? There are what I would say the six orthodox schools, lack of a better word, from back in India, centuries age-old concept. But I'll kind of talk it from a very modern concept. I don't know how many of you are familiar with quantum physics. The Planck was the first one to propose quantum physics, and Einstein said he doesn't like it because quantum physics talks only hypothesis. There is no definitive answers there. Now it's almost 100 years. We still don't have definite answers. So what Planck is saying is on the top is the consciousness. What consciousness manifested the material, physical elements, universes. So everything began from consciousness. This I'm not saying it. Planck is saying it. The Nobel laureate. And everyone knows Schrodinger. Schrodinger was a student of Planck. Right? So from that, so imagine today, now you go to any quantum physicist, Roger Penrose, who wrote this book. What is that book? See, it's always in my mind and I forgot right now. Anyways, so any quantum physicist, you go open any video of any talks on quantum physics, they start from consciousness. Now the quantum physicists are saying the consciousness was the base. From everything, the universe is manifested. And this Sankhya spoke about centuries ago, almost 8000 BC we are talking about, when these philosophies, schools are emerged. They call the school, the orthodox school, the Hindi Sanskrit word for it is Mimamsa. So there are what they call the preschools and the post schools. The post schools are of Vedanta philosophy, what we are studying today, and the preschools are the Purva Mimamsa, what they call. So the Sankhya emerged from those schools. What Sankhya? Sankhya means number. Means basically saying a very structured school of thought. That's what it means. Even the Sankhya is saying there is a Purusha, means the real essence, the real being, and the Prakriti is that this whole material world. When it says material world, all planets, galaxies, the entire universe, including all the beings, are called Prakriti. And the base, the essence is the Purusha. And even beyond this Prakriti and Purusha, there is something beyond that. They did not name it as consciousness, but later they called it Chit, the consciousness. So the consciousness is base for this manifestation, which was spoken almost 8000 BC. Now the quantum physicists are talking about the same concepts. So it is, somewhat difficult to even understand, fathom how this manifestation has happened. Right, in our last Saturday reading, Susan can relate to it, that the consciousness was the base, and from something, some stir happened before creation. There was nothing. From this nothing, some stir happened. The first mind was created. The first mind formed its own identity. And when it forms its own identity, it felt separated from the essence. When it separated from the essence, the first impression it gathered was fear. The fear of losing its identity. So now it started protecting its identity, knowing that that identity can be lost, inevitable. The death is inevitable. The end is inevitable. But anyways, from that impressions, the whole universe has manifested. So it is written in many ways, many forms, in many philosophies and many texts. But Sankhya specifically talks about there being a Purusha, a pure consciousness, and a Prakriti which manifested from that consciousness, the nature. But how did that manifestation, even Purusha, what is Purusha? Again, if you kind of go jump deep into that philosophy, that consciousness is nothing but a reflection of the essence. Okay. I recently answered one question. Somebody asked me, these three bodies we talk about, the physical body, the subtle body, and the causal body. Interchangeably, a lot of times the causal body is addressed as soul. Why the causal body is addressed as soul when, according to the scriptures, the soul is defined as eternal, unchanging, never born, never dies? Then why are we attributing to something which is called a body, a layer, causal body, the soul? You see how now we are looking at this multi-dimensional picture and trying to project one side of its perception. Right? I gave that example in my write-up. Suppose if you have to give someone to make a cylinder for you, a metal cylindrical shape for you. To the designer, how are you going to give the specs for the cylinder? So we used to do it in our engineering drawings. So you look the cylinder from the front view. The front view looks like a rectangle. So you draw the dimensions, length, width, and height. Right? And then from the top view, the cylinder looks like a circle. So you draw a circle with a diameter. If you give this dimension to what do you call it? The one who can make the cylinder. I'm not getting the right word. Oh, this is all the information required for that guy to make a cylinder. You see? So it's all about, in one point of view, it looks like a rectangle. Another point of view, it looks like a circle. Correct? But now we are looking at nth dimensional picture. What perspective should I be giving for that? Or how do I even understand this nth dimensional holistically? It's not possible. Correct? But the life is engaged in its own self so much. It's so much self-indulged. It's not understanding this big picture at all. Suppose if I may ask people, right, what is that they spend the most on? They never spend the most on the needs. Needs requires minimal amount of spending. The real needs. Rest all is for the self-indulgement. Bigger house. Why? Because I want to maintain that social status. It is not a need. But it's something we created out of that social norms. Bigger things, beautiful things, expensive things. So the most of our spending is on entertainment. It's entertaining this idea of the self-identity rather than the needs. You see it. You observe. We are all doing it. No one is an exception here. Right? It's always we are trying to protect our identity, and that's all we are working for. day and night. But once we go beyond and recognize this real essence, which is permanent, where you don't need to protect it at all because it's permanent. It's never destroyed, never born. The real essence, the real Purusha, this pure consciousness as we call it. When the mind develops the identity with it, suddenly you feel free. You don't have to work for it anymore. All that you have to do is get absorbed into it more and more, more and more. So that's what the meditation does to us. So meditation is, at least during the time of meditation, I'm connecting to this real essence, real identity, which is already there. We are not bringing any new identity. It's just that we have not cognized it. We have not recognized it so far. So the Sankhya philosophy is an introduction to say that this essence is within you, because you being the manifested entity, the manifested entity cannot be devoid of its source. So it says, find that source within. Now, what are the instruments we have to find that source? The first instrument we have is the mind. And the second instrument we have is the perception. Now again, all the neurophysicists, neuroscientists, they say this wisdom or intuition or perception, there's no faculty in the brain which has the ability to have the intuition, which has the ability to have the thinking. Thinking is not the faculty of the brain. Nor intuition, nor wisdom, nor perception, nor any cognition is not the function of the brain. They could not find which part of the brain does it. Brain is all about computation, motoring skills. If the Emperor's New Mind, that's the book I was talking about by Rogers Penrose. He says it's all about motoring skills. Intuitively, the tennis player is thinking which side of the court they need to hit the ball. Automatically, the motoring skills are adjusted. See, there is another power which is driving this intuition, and the brain only comes to perform that action as a motor, as a robot. But there is no perception in the brain. They could not map it. And now they're talking about the microtubules. I don't know if anyone has read about microtubules. The helical spring-like structures within the DNA, the protein in the cell, those are the fundamental blocks of a cell to have its memory. Right? So like this, now the science is talking about what was discovered, age-old technology, in a very scientific terms, but the essence is the same. We are all manifested from this consciousness. But then our duty, prime duty as beings, conscious beings, beings with the perception, to use that ability in the right way to connect with that essence, source. So by knowing which everything can be known. By doing which we evolve, we start the evolution to become one with that identity, or to become one with that essence itself. So that we become free mentally, emotionally, in every which way. That is a true state of liberation, we can call it. Otherwise, moksha is some illusionary state people have been talking about, thinking about for so long, but they have never experienced it. Unless we experience moksha today, we cannot attain it after. So that's why spirituality is always, the principle of spirituality is do it now when you can. Because right now your mental faculties, physical faculties, your financial status, everything is permitting for you to exercise this capacity. Later you don't know. So that's why do it now. And when will I achieve that moksha? Now. If you understand why we are doing it. Otherwise, the transmission we are talking about, generally people understand, oh, I had this great transmission today. What they are telling me is they felt very good in meditation. Why are we feeling good? Because another entertainment, another engagement, your mind is in a lull state. You can get it through drugs also. But that's not why transmission is given. If you understand why transmission is given, the state of transmission is nothing but that Purusha, the pure consciousness, for us to experience and feel so that we can ask for it. But instead, we are mesmerized by the lull, the calmness it is creating. When that calmness and that feeling is created in you, we know that it is because of transmission. Then you try to absorb that essence rather than enjoying that lullness, rather than enjoying that calmness. So meditation is not to calm your mind. Meditation is to develop this identity with that essence. That is the true purpose of meditation. Right? So someone asked during our Sunday session, last Sunday, what is God? I did not answer. The answer went tangentially somewhere. But if I had to answer, I will say what Daji says. What will you do if you know what is God? There is nothing you can do about it. All that you can do is contradict, argue about it. My scripture says God is this, and somebody says my textbook says God is this. That's all they can argue about. It's like, 5 blind people talking about that elephant, that story from the Sufis. Nobody knows, but everyone is talking. So that's the problem. That's the problem of intelligence. Right? So the real thing we are trying to experience here, I don't have to fool anyone. If at all I am fooling it, I'm fooling myself. In meditation, I can say, oh, I have this appeared, this demon appeared, or that God appeared. I can boast about it, but I'm fooling myself. The real thing about meditation is to cognize this essence. It's that simple. If my approach is towards that, I'm definitely experiencing and I'm becoming that essence in every meditation. One of my friend asked me, this goal we talk about, how many people have reached this goal in heartfulness? I told him everyone who meditated have reached this goal, whether they recognized it or not. Every meditation, we are with that essence. We have become one with that essence. In every meditation. Whether you sit by yourself or whether you come here and sit as a group, or you go to Himalayas and sit there, or you go to Kana and sit there, it is all the same. There is no difference. So that's why let's bring that essence, let's work towards it so that it becomes mine. When it becomes mine, it becomes my identity, then I can process it correctly. Okay, I'll stop here for any comments, questions.
I guess I have a question.
Sure.
How do we know that we are touching this essence and bonding with this essence? And I assume that perception changes over time too.
Yes, it does. Yesterday someone asked me the same question. So, how do you explain a 5-year-old the true understanding of a marital conjugal relationship? You can explain, but they won't understand. They cannot feel it, they cannot connect with it. But slowly, over a period of time, it naturally develops. Same thing here, as we meditate, intuitively, as this transmission is given to us, intuitively our mind start perceiving that. But for that, the understanding is important. All these discussions are to develop that understanding. So it gives me a pointer, a direction, and then we work on it. Then we start feeling it. When we start feeling it, then we start cognizing it. When we start cognizing it, then I say that is what I want to be. Because I can realize the importance of it in my life, what it can bring to me. See, today we want money because we know what it can bring to us. Anything we seek for, we ask for, we know what it brings to us. In whatever the fashion. The same thing here also. It starts developing and then it becomes my identity. Once it becomes my identity, I want to become more and more of it. So it is more and more subtler, more and more refined, and the clarity develops. So it's a step-by-step process, but it happens in every meditation. It's not something I have to meditate for 1,000 years to get there. It happens in every meditation. If you are ready to understand it, if I'm oriented towards it, then I can start feeling it. All right? Okay. So now let's get into meditation.